loving each other as brothers and sisters. Don't forget to show hospitality to strangers, for some who've done this have entertained angels without realizing. Remember those in prison as if you were there yourself. Remember those who are being mistreated as if you felt their pain in your body. Most important of all, continue to show deep love for each other, for love covers a multitude of sins. Cheerfully share your home with those in need of a meal or a place to stay. God has given each one of you a gift from his great variety of gifts. Use them well to serve one another. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Anybody here familiar with Don Ho? All right, Don Ho. Well, he was a legendary Hawaiian singer. The Tiny Bubbles, the show. If you grew up in Tillamook, apparently on KTIL, early in the morning when David was a little boy, they played the Don Ho show for all the farmers out there milking cows. Well, his family has just been part of a welcoming Aloha spirit for years. Way back in like 1939, his mother, who has the delightful name of Honey, she got talking to starting a business of her own, and she thought, I don't know anything about business, but I do know people. Honey's Place will be about people. Well, the Work Project Administration, the WPA, had just come in, so she started serving sandwiches and having a little restaurant, 15 cents a sandwich. Well, most of the local people just came in to talk stories, because after the Depression, most people didn't have much money, but everybody was welcome at Honey. But then World War II changed things. Honey said, the town filled up with soldiers, sailors, and Marines, mostly young kids, many away from home for the very first time. Some of them were scared, and some were rowdy the first time. Because they learned at Honey's Place, everyone was family, and I was a mother. When a soldier would come in, I would quickly learn his name and introduce him to all of the others there. These kids were away from home, and they were dying for someone to talk to, and that's what we were there for. Soon, Honey's Place was packed. My family all learned it's all about connection. You learn to listen, to really listen to the customers. That's what Honey's is about. That's what Hawaii is about. You feed their souls as well as their bodies. Can you imagine being one of those soldiers? First time away from home, you don't know anybody, you're kind of scared. And then some other soldier says, come to Honey's Place, you're going to love this place. So you go, and when you come in the door, this warm, friendly woman, she wants to know your name, and she wants to hear a little bit about your story. With Honey, you feel right at home, like you're part of her big Hawaiian family. Doesn't come as much of a surprise to me to find out that Honey is a Christian. She is following Jesus' example in a really practical way. He fed the 5,000, she fed the people who came into Honey's Place. And I think that's exactly what Jesus would do. Back when he was feeding people and calling everybody together to eat and drink and talk stories, he got into a lot of trouble with other religious people for welcoming everyone. But Jesus knew, like Honey did, that it's about connecting with people, listening to people, feeding their souls, feeding their bodies. So Don Ho talks a little bit about his mom's place. He says the customers who came into Honey's Place wanted to belong. It became not just a restaurant. Honey's Place became a place of healing, a place where lonely people could find joy. I spent my youth at Honey's Place standing behind the counter, listening to a million stories, a million joys, a million heartaches, because I knew people came in to that connection that my mother taught me about. The human connection is what people are hungry for. So just like those soldiers could have gone to any other restaurant on the island, everybody that's here today could have gone somewhere else. So I just like to tell you, like Honey, I am so glad you're here. This morning we are called to be God's Ohana. That's the Hawaiian word for family. God's big, extended family. Romans 15:7 says, welcome one another as Christ welcomed you for the glory of God. Now, Ohana is used both for your close family and for your big, extended family. So, Honey's Ohana included all of her kids, everybody who worked at her restaurant, all of her neighbors, all of the locals, every soldier that came in, everybody who came through the door was part of her big let us, called the haole, which means no bread, they didn't let us know about this. It was special. It was about love. But in the 1970s, a lady named Auntie Margaret decided if it's about love, we need to share it with the other people too. So she's known for this real generosity of love and for opening up that spirit of welcome to those of us who aren't culturally Hawaiian. So she had a student come to visit her, and when you go to learn from Auntie Margaret, which I didn't have the blessing of doing, but would be fabulous, you go for a month, and you live with her family. So there was a student named David who was going to go and study with her, and he said, I had traveled all over the world looking for something, looking for a place where I could belong. So on my first day, as I traveled down the path to Auntie Margaret's house, I heard her sing out, here comes my son, David. And he'd never met before. What a beautiful sense of homecoming, of belonging. Auntie Margaret lives out Romans 12:10. Be devoted to each other in love. Honor one another above yourself. So I think Honey and Margaret are wonderful examples of love in action. And we have that opportunity too. We all have the opportunity to be a son or a daughter to someone who needs one, to be a mother or a dad, an auntie or uncle, brother or sister. In Honey and Margaret's stories, you see how powerful it is to take other people into your fold, into your Ohana, your extended family. One of the other words, one of the first words you hear in Hawaii, the first word I said today is aloha. Aloha means all kinds of things in Hawaiian. It can mean hello, it can mean goodbye, it can mean love, both love for a brother or sister or more passionate, that kind of love. It's all aloha. But what it means, alo means bosom, the bosom of the universe, the center of your being, and ha means breath. So the essential meaning of aloha is we share the breath of life. That everyone you say that to, you're recognizing in them that we share this commonality. We're all family. Aloha, we share the breath of life. So a lady named Nana Viri was talking about how when she was little, her grandma taught her about aloha and welcoming other people. Nana says, I grew up in a simpler time in Hawaii, taught and raised in the old Hawaiian ways. Throughout my childhood, my grandparents were a strong influence. And the older Hawaiians of that day were extremely dignified and spiritually aware. She says, I looked forward to visiting them every weekend in their little grass hut. One day while I was visiting, a stranger was coming into town, and all of the children said to my grandmother, Grandmother, there's a stranger coming. And she just said, when he arrives, let me know. So when he arrived, the children said, Grandmother, he's here. And she came out onto her lanai, onto the little porch, and she said, Iko mai, kipa mai, ipaina. For those of you who don't know Hawaiian, come, stay a while and dine. The little girl said, I was intrigued, so I sat and eavesdropped. And when the stranger left, I asked my grandmother, did you know him? No, he's a stranger. Then why did you feed him? And then my grandmother got very angry, made me sit on the floor, and said, I want you to remember these words for as long as you live. Never forget them. I wasn't just feeding the man. I was feeding the Spirit of God in him. Nana says this practice of honoring the other was so much a part of their culture, it didn't even have a name. But for the younger folks, they call it aloha spirit. To the Hawaiians of old, it was inherent and natural. They lived it. To feed a stranger passing by, that was pure aloha. Aloha is a recognition of the divine in the other. Not just a word of greeting, but a feeling that bonds people. The whole village is your family. Their sorrows are your sorrows. Their joys are yours. We are all related and can't help loving each other. After I read that story by Nana, I thought, gosh, that sounds an awful lot like Jesus. He took time with people. I think of the woman at the well that nobody else wanted to have anything to do with. Jesus took time with her. When he called all of his disciples, he called them by name. He knew things about them. He took time with people. Honey and Auntie Margaret also knew that power, calling people by their name. It says, you matter to me. We share the same breath of life. So on my little card, there's a little bumper sticker that says, live aloha. And it's a reminder to me. One that I hope I can live up to Remember, everyone you meet is part of your Ohana. They share the breath of life with you. It reminds me of the passage Jim read. Dear friends, let us love one another. Love comes from God. Everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. And whoever doesn't love doesn't know God, because God is love. What people notice isn't what we say, but how we live with love, how we live with aloha. So my final Hawaiian word for you today, so you've got aloha and ohana. This is ho'okipa. It's the word for hospitality. I think it literally means stop and stay a while. You could see the warmth and welcome in Honey's restaurant. You could feel the hospitality on the path as Auntie Margaret called out to her new son, David. You could hear the ho'okipa in Nana Viri's grandmother feeding the stranger, feeding the spirit of God in the stranger. Stop and stay a while. Come and dine. I love that verse in Hebrews that says, don't forget to entertain people you don't know, because it might be an angel and we don't know it. I think Nana's grandmother probably heard that verse. Honey probably heard it. Margaret had probably heard it. It really is part of Hawaiian tradition. When we went and visited, you just feel embraced by Hawaii when you get there. You get there, and the wind is warm, and it smells like flowers. And if you paid enough, they'll give it away. And they'll say, welcome to Hawaii. We hope you enjoy your time here. But the more I got to know people there, it really is a beautiful place, and they kind of want you to love the land the way they love the land. Wouldn't it be wonderful if people who came out of here saying, this is like Hawaii. I wish I never had to leave. It's such a warm, welcoming place. For that to happen, people would have to feel as much aloha here as they did at Honey's place. Honey radiated love, hospitality, and family, and she passed it on to everyone she met. Her granddaughter, Koku, said, I never wondered why so many people who knew her at Honey's place considered her their mother and grandmother. She is family to everyone she meets. The world is drawn to her like a magnet. Because people were drawn to Honey, that gave her a chance to make them part of her family and a chance for her to share Jesus with them. This is the good news of the gospel. Jesus wants everyone to be part of the family of God. He wants us to share aloha with people and live that kind of love every day. Ask people. Stop and stay a while. And listen to them. We get so busy in our lives now with our stuff. We don't take as much time to listen. But when we do, we get to welcome others into the ohana of God. Ikaw mo